In the heartland of the Midwest, where the land is as flat as a mirror and the sky is an unending canvas of blue, I reside. The specifics of my location are inconsequential, but it is a place that is no stranger to the wrath of Mother Nature, particularly the fury of tornadoes. These cyclonic tempests are most common between the months of April and June, but their arrival later in the year is not unheard of. What is unheard of, however, is a tornado warning that persists for 3 days. 3 days prior, I had returned from another day of labor, my body weary and my mind numb. I sought solace in the comfort of my couch, a beer in my hand, and the company of my dog, Sam, a small creature of indeterminate breed, rescued from an uncertain fate. My plan was simple: to drown the monotony of the day in alcohol and lose myself in the mindless chatter of late-night television. But my routine was shattered by the shrill alarm of a tornado warning from my television and phone. The world outside my window was a tableau of an impending storm, but it lacked the ominous undertones of a tornado. Nevertheless, I heeded the warning, gathering Sam and my dinner, and retreated to the sanctuary of my cellar, a place as unremarkable as my house. The only casualty of my hasty retreat was my beer, forgotten in the rush. The cellar, a relic of a bygone era, was a labyrinth of shadows and echoes. I navigated its depths with the familiarity of a seasoned explorer, my hand tracing the rough texture of the wall until it found the switch that bathed the room in a harsh, artificial light. I knew the light was a temporary luxury, so I set about preparing the generator, ensuring I had enough food and water, and then settled into an old chair, the only piece of furniture in the cellar. I turned on my radio, expecting to lose the signal within half an hour, as the storm would inevitably drown out the transmissions. As I began to eat my dinner, the radio crackled to life, the voice of the emergency weather alert broadcast cutting through the static. The message was a standard advisory for residents of Sumner County, Kansas, to stay indoors, preferably in a storm cellar, and to secure all windows. But then, the message took an unusual turn. Residents were advised to lock all doors, barricade cellar entrances, and ignore any calls for help or requests for entry until an official all-clear signal was given. The message was repeated, each repetition amplifying the sense of unease that had begun to coil in my stomach. I had weathered many storms and tornadoes in this cellar, listening to the symphony of rain, lightning, and hail playing havoc above me. But never before had I been advised to lock my doors or ignore calls for help. My initial thought was that perhaps looters were taking advantage of the situation, breaking into the homes of those who had sought shelter from the storm. But looting during a storm was unheard of, and looters were not known for announcing their presence. I tried to dismiss the unsettling message, and eventually, the rhythmic drumming of the rain lulled me into an uneasy sleep. I was jolted awake around 3 a.m. by Sam's barking and growling at the cellar door. It was unusual behavior for her. She only barked at people at the door or other dogs. I climbed the stairs and pressed my ear against the cellar door, straining to hear over the cacophony of the rain and the occasional roll of thunder. It was strange. The tornado should have passed by now, but there was no official all-clear signal. I was certain I wouldn't have slept through it. I was a light sleeper and had ensured the radio volume was high enough to wake me. Just as I was about to retreat to my chair, I heard it, the unmistakable creak of my front door opening. I had forgotten to lock it. Sam's barking intensified, and despite my attempts to quiet her, the house was eerily silent. I quickly replaced the wooden board that secured the cellar door, making it nearly impossible to open from the outside. Then I heard it, the soft, almost imperceptible sound of footsteps. They were light but unmistakable, moving through my house like a ghost. I tracked their progress with my ears, from the living room to the stairs and into my bedroom. Panic began to rise within me, a nauseating mix of fear and dread. I had left my rifle upstairs, and my only weapon in the cellar was a small steak knife. I switched off the cellar light, which I had foolishly left on, and peered through the crack between the cellar doors. The view was limited, but I could see my couch, the stairs, and the closed bathroom door. The footsteps had stopped, and I wondered if this was what the radio had warned about. Then, the silence was broken by a knock. It started as a quiet tapping, gradually escalating into a thunderous banging. It sounded like a multitude of fists were hammering against my cellar door. I instinctively jumped back, nearly tumbling down the stairs in my surprise. I yelled at the unseen intruder, warning them that I was armed. My voice trembled, betraying my fear. The banging stopped. Had I scared it away? The silence that followed was unsettling. Then it spoke. "Hey man, you need to let me in. It's really dangerous out here. I don't know how long I can last." The voice was familiar, yet impossible. It was the voice of my brother, who I hadn't seen in years since he moved to the West Coast. He didn't even know where I lived. I knew that whatever was outside was not my brother, but something else. Yet I found myself responding. "Mark? Yeah, it's been a while. Let me in. I need to see you." The voice changed at the end of the sentence, becoming deeper, raspier. It was not my brother's voice. I knew I couldn't respond. "Look, Alec, for the love of God, let me in. It's dangerous out here. The storm is strong." I didn't reply, which seemed to anger it. It screamed in frustration, a high-pitched wail that filled the air and made me want to vomit. Then it started banging on the door again. It was quiet for a few hours after that. The storm continued, but there was no sign of a tornado. Then my radio crackled to life again. "Emergency weather alert canceled. Residents are advised to leave their cellars to secure properties. That is all." I sighed in relief, but it was short-lived. The broadcast seemed off. There was usually a damage report and information about aid locations after a storm. Plus, I could still hear the rain and thunder above me. There was no way a signal could get through. It must have somehow hijacked my radio signal. Even though I didn't respond to the message, my radio continued to say that I could leave. Every few minutes, the same line would be repeated with perfect sound quality. It was enough to make me want to unplug the radio altogether, but I was afraid of missing the actual all-clear signal. 3 days passed in this manner, the storm and my radio refusing to relent. The creature, whatever it was, remained a constant presence, occasionally reminding me of its existence with a bang on the door. My sanity was hanging by a thread, and if it weren't for Sam, I believe I would have succumbed to madness. On the eve of the 4th day, the storm showed no signs of abating. I had spent the time between my posts digging out the back of the cellar. The previous owner had mentioned a cellar door that opened to the outside, but it was buried under a pile of rubble from the collapsed walls. It was a long shot, but it was my only hope. I had a landline in the cellar, so I tried to call my neighbors. The first few calls went unanswered, and I was about to give up when the creature outside my door spoke again. "You're not going to get through to them. I can help. Let me in. I will help you. I have food and water." I ignored it and tried one last time to call my neighbors. This time they answered. "Hello, Mr. Robinson. Do you need help, Alec?" I couldn't tell them about the creature. They wouldn't believe me. I told them I was running out of food and water and my generator was broken. They agreed to let me stay with them until the storm passed. I packed a backpack with food, water, batteries, and Sam, and prepared to make a run for it. "All right, come on in," I shouted, swinging the outside cellar doors open and sprinting across the yard to my neighbor's cellar. I banged on their door, screaming for them to let me in. Mrs. Robinson opened the doors and ushered me in. The cellar was pitch black, their generator having died an hour ago. I was just relieved to be away from the creature. But then, Mr. Robinson asked me when I had last seen my brother, Mark. He said Mark had been there a moment ago, looking for me. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the creature was still with me. "Is he here?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Hello? Hello?" The cellar was plunged into a silence so profound it was as if the world itself had stopped breathing. The only sound was the distant, muffled drumming of the rain above us. The Robinsons didn't answer my question, their silence echoing louder than any words. A cold dread began to seep into my bones, chilling me to the core. The storm outside continued its relentless assault, the rain pounding against the earth like 1,000 tiny fists. The cellar, once a sanctuary, now felt like a tomb. The darkness was oppressive, a tangible entity that seemed to press against my skin. I could feel the weight of the silence, the unspoken words hanging in the air like specters. The creature, whatever it was, had followed me. It had somehow infiltrated the Robinson cellar, masquerading as my brother. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless. I had led the creature right to us like a lamb to the slaughter. The radio, which had been a constant companion during my ordeal, was eerily silent. The repetitive message that had been broadcasted every few minutes had ceased. The silence was deafening, amplifying the pounding of my heart in my ears. I felt a sense of despair wash over me, a feeling of hopelessness that threatened to consume me. The creature had been relentless in its pursuit, its determination unwavering. It had manipulated my radio, mimicked the voice of my brother, and now it had infiltrated the safety of the Robinson cellar. Its ability to adapt and overcome was terrifying, a testament to its predatory nature. I clutched Sam closer to me, her small body trembling in my arms. She was my only source of comfort in this nightmare, her presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. I knew I had to protect her, to keep her safe from the creature. The Robinsons were silent, their presence barely noticeable in the darkness. I wondered if they were aware of the danger we were in, if they knew about the creature. I felt a pang of guilt for bringing this horror upon them, for shattering the safety of their sanctuary. The creature had been silent since we entered the cellar, its presence a silent threat. I knew it was only a matter of time before it revealed itself, before it made its move. I had to be ready, to be prepared to fight for our lives. I clutched the small steak knife in my hand, the cold metal a stark reminder of the reality of our situation. I knew it was a poor excuse for a weapon, but it was all I had. I had to make it count. The storm outside raged on, oblivious to the horror unfolding within the cellar. The rain continued to fall, each drop a reminder of the passage of time. The creature was patient, biding its time, but I knew it wouldn't wait forever. As the hours passed, the tension in the cellar grew. The silence was broken only by the occasional whimper from Sam and the distant rumble of thunder. The creature remained silent, its presence a constant threat. The storm showed no signs of abating, its fury unabated. The cellar, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. The darkness was oppressive, the silence deafening. The creature was still with us, its presence a constant reminder of the danger we were in. "Hello? Hello?" I called out again, my voice echoing in the darkness. There was no response, only the relentless drumming of the rain above us. The creature was silent, biding its time, and all we could do was wait.